Greetings, everybody. Such formality. I like it, though. There's a certain degree of a sense of properness that happens. And I use the word proper because I was raised in a British colony, and word proper is a very proper thing to be proper about. So thank you, Susan, for singing that story about life, because our topic today is life. You call it. So I want to take you through some thoughts of some of the wonderful thinkers of our time about life. Dr. Holmes, who is the founder of religious science, the author of The Science of Mind, he says, to inquire why life is useless. For life is self-existent, and all of the science, wit, and art of man can never fathom that which is self-existent. He says, I am that I am. Since we are, we must have evolved from or become manifest in that which is. Our physiological and psychological reactions are reactions to something which has an actual existence, intelligence, and consciousness. Our actions and reactions can be analyzed. The invisible life principle incarnated in us cannot be analyzed. Any attempt to do so is futile. Facts admit of proof, he says. Life announces itself. We know that we are. Even a flat denial of our existence would constitute a bold affirmation of its reality. You'll find that on page 372. So in looking at the life that you are, and the life that I am, and the life that everyone on this planet is a useful thing for us, even though he said it's futile. Because I want to share some thoughts with you that I gathered from around the world. First of all, I'm wondering what Oscar Wilde would have to say about life today. Because in his time he said, life is far too important a thing to talk about. That's Oscar Wilde. So for a number of years, I was involved in the human potential movement and have been around the change your life concept for many years. And the difference of being now in the spiritual perspective of what life really means is more fascinating, more meaningful, more exciting, and I can't wait to be with you every Sunday morning. This is not a job. This is a delight. And thank you for putting up with me having delight with you. So the question came to me, what are we doing about our life? Are we really creating our life? You know, science and technology have changed many of the natural things that we experience today. And some of these advances are good, and some of these cause the opposite to take place. People get sick, people die, people find themselves in great discomfort. The self-help, self-makeover industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I was part of that for a while. But I want to share with you some thoughts from other people. Walt Whitman, for instance, he says, there is more to a man than is contained between his head and his bootstraps. Ella Wheeler Walcott says, our lives are a song. God writes the words, and we set them to music, a pleasure, and the song grows glad, so sweet, so sad, as we choose to fashion the measure. Nice, huh? Helen Keller says, and you know what she proclaimed, life is either a daring adventure or nothing. How does that strike you? Ella Wilcox. George Bernard Shaw said, life is a series of inspired follies. He said the difficulty is to find them to do. Never lose a chance it doesn't come every day. Interesting. Carl Sandburg, he says, life is an onion. You peel it off one layer at a time, and sometimes you weep. T.A. Doggan says, life is like artichokes. You've got to go through so much for so little. And you know Auntie Mame, what she said, life is a banquet. You get to make the banquet. So in some cases, one might ask, is life a cruel practical joke? You ever had that sort of conjuring up in your mind? I see heads going yes like this. Is it a cruel practical joke? So before this service ends today, I'm going to invite you, every one of you, to join me in an experiment. And you're going to experiment something right here and have some results right here. Some of the greatest thinkers have said, like for instance, Quentin Crisp, he said, the purpose of existence is to reconcile the glowing opinion we hold of ourselves with the appalling things other people think about us. Jean de la Bourrée says this, life is a tragedy for those who feel, a comedy for those who think. There you go. John Keats, he says, a man's life of any worth is a continued allegory. And that's true. Shakespeare, of course, says life is a play that struts and frets its hour on the stage. And a lot of people do that with their lives. Seneca, like him, he says, life is a play. It's not its length, but its performance that counts. The Gospel of Luke says, a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of things which he possesseth. Possesseth. A lot of us possess it, things that we think our life consists of. He says it doesn't consist in that. See, I believe that life is the unfoldment of personality and is a sacred adventure. That's my portion of it. Dr. Holmes, he says, the unfoldment of personality is a projection of the eternal creative spirit, which is the essence of all personality and background of individuality. I agree with Whitman, though. He says there's something more to a person, a man, than is contained between his head and his bootstraps. Too many people think that they're empty beings. They don't have it. Excuse me. When we look at the nature of life, one has to agree that life is an adventure of the highest qualities. You cannot find anything more valuable than a human being, and you cannot do anything more important than engage in his or her own life. Nothing is more important. The nature of life is goodness. The nature of life is truth. The nature of life is wisdom. The nature of life is beauty. The nature of life is abundance. The nature of life is harmony. The nature of life is intelligence. The nature of life is rational, relational. The nature of life is peace. The nature of life is power and causation. Dr. Holmes says in The Science of Mind, he says, all human being endeavor is an attempt to get back to first principle, to find such an inward wholeness that all sense of fear, doubt, and uncertainty vanishes. So he's saying that's the purpose of our life. In his book, This Thing Called Life, Dr. Holmes writes this. He says, the power of spiritual thought through faith and communion is the most dynamic power ever discovered. Now, if you've ever learned to put away faith, to put away fear and uncertainty, you have found the power to live a happy and joyous life. He also says that love is the grandest healing and drawing power on earth. A thought of love is always healing. A thought of love is always healing. How many thoughts of love have you had today? How many thoughts of the opposite have you had today? Do you feel a sense of healing flowing through your body, or the opposite flowing through your body, based on the thoughts you've been holding today already? Love is the greatest, grandest healing and drawing power on planet Earth. A thought of love is always healing. Years ago, when I was in California, we found something in the Los Angeles Times. It says, all human endeavor is an attempt to get back to first cause. And in the LA Times, here's what I found. It says this, 10 years ago, that was in 1999, 10 years ago, 64% of American medical schools now teach contemporary and alternative medicine. The near majority of them feature courses in spirituality and healing. Can you believe that? So there is an experiment that I mentioned that I want to share with you. I want you to share with me. And in today, we are going to have an experience of that. We hope. I hope. So Susan, do you mind just tinkling on the piano a little bit for us? Fingering. You know the problem with the human language is that humans get to interpret it on their own. When I first came to the United States, 1966, 50 years ago, maybe quite almost, I was told, before I came to the United States, I was told about how the state of New York will make all of Trinidad, where I came from, look like a Sunday school class. So I expected it to be that. So I stayed with some friends of mine who wanted me to meet other people, called up a friend of his, a woman with her children and her girlfriend, came to pick me up, to take me for a ride, to show me Brooklyn, New York. And as we were driving around, the car was filled. I was sitting on the back window behind the driver's seat. And the person made a right turn, so I looked up to see what they were when they were turning, what was on the buildings. And on the building it said, body shop. And I said, oh my God, they even put it on the buildings. That tells you how difficult the human English language is. Just got it. That's time release, it's kind of takes a while. So here's the experiment I want us all to participate in. I want us to participate in the fact that love is the grandest healing power on earth. So if you'd close your eyes, let's play this game together. Close your eyes. I want you to open your heart now. Imagine your heart opening, and out of that heart, great love is being released because your mind now is filled with love. Thoughts of love, being loved. What does it feel like to be loved? What does it feel like to love someone? I want you to embrace that thought. Now, I want you to send love to everybody in this room, in this sanctuary. There are over 40 people in here today. Send love to everyone. Remembering what it feels like to love as you send love to everyone here. Now let us expand that and let's send love to every human being on planet Earth. If love is the greatest healing power, there is enough power in this room to heal the woes of all humanity. Everyone can feel and sense that wholeness, that love. Emerson said, "All things are made sacred by relation to it, one as much as another. All things are dissolved to their center by their cause, and is the universal miracle." As we send love to everyone, just see it floating over our planet. There's an aura around our planet of pure love. I want you to recognize that there's a heart around our planet. And now come back to this room, feeling, sensing, knowing love is the greatest drawing power and the most powerful healing agent in the world. You may open your eyes. Thank you, Susan. I see a lot of smiles. Results. That's results. You've touched a life. Even if it's one person on this planet, you have touched a life. So what if you name life love? What would happen to our planet? What would happen to your personal life? I dare to say it would be wonderful. Some people are healed simply by the powerful realization of this love. They're healed. So what I'd like you to do is turn back into your program and let us read again together the affirmation that we read earlier. Are you ready? Okay, let us begin. In this moment, I celebrate the truth of my spiritual being and the oneness of my mind with the infinite mind of God. The joy of this knowing fills me with a deep sense of peace. The peace is ceaselessly active in me through every moment each day. And I live in constant awareness of my inseparable oneness with God, the great Creator, the one original life source, and the one mind in and through which I live and have my being. And so it is. Do you feel any different now that you've read that for the second time? Thank you. I love you. Namaste.